So in this video we're going to work on decimals. We see decimals in everyday life. I'll give you a few examples. When you go to the store and you purchase something and the cashier says it's $7.53, when you see that little decimal point there, that means you're dealing with a decimal. So that's the decimal, is that little dot in between the 7 and the 5. And so we see decimals in more than just at the cash register when we go purchase something, but that's one of the main places we see it. Maybe when you go fill up your gasoline in the tank of your car, it may say that you used or filled it up with 12 gallons, 12.051 gallons of gas. Again, that's a decimal as well. So this would be gallons. And again, you can see that at the gas station on the little machine when you go to fill up your car with gas. The first one was an example of dollars, so it's $7.53. You might also see it when you go, let's say, pick up some meat in the meat department at the grocery store. It might tell you that it is 1.74 pounds. And that's also a decimal. What a decimal means really is it's part of a whole. And let me give you some examples with that and kind of talk about that comment. So a decimal is part of a whole. So it's not quite one whole something. So let's take our dollars example here at the top. So we'll look at this example. If you're paying and you're buying something at $7.53, it's telling you that it's more than $7, but not quite $8. So it's 7 whole dollars and 0.53 of the next dollar. So to pay for that, if you give them $8, you've given them more than what they need. And so they're going to give you part of a dollar back. They're going to give you 47 cents back. So they're giving you part of a whole. You're paying, in the next example, for gallons. In this case, you're buying more than 12 gallons, but less than 13 gallons. How much more than of 12 gallons are you buying, or what part of the next whole number are you buying? 0.0151 is what you're buying, so you're part of a gallon there. In pounds, the same thing. What this means is you're buying more than 1 pound, but less than 2 pounds. How much more than 1 pound? How close are you? Well, you're buying 0.74 of a pound as well. So you're buying 1 whole pound, and 0.74 are part of another pound. So this over here is part of a dollar, part of a gallon, or part of a pound. So it's not quite 1 pound, it's not quite 1 gallon, it's not quite $1. So we call that just a part of the dollar, part of a gallon, or part of a pound. The next thing we have to understand about decimals is, well, how much of the part of the pound or gallon or dollar are we dealing with here? So let's just take an example. If we have 2.5, okay, we have the number 2.5. That is the same as writing 2.50, 2.500, 2.5000, and so forth. They all mean the same thing. That's actually the exact same number, so to speak, or same amount. What this means here in this case is you have 2 whole and 0.5 of a part of a whole. So again, in this case, we're somewhere between 2 and 3. And exact 0.5 means we're exactly halfway between 2 and 3. As another example of this, let's say you have purchased a pizza. And the pizza shop has cut the pizza into 8 slices. And so you bought 1 pizza. And let's say you ate this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece. How much of the pizza did you eat? Well, a lot of people would say you ate half the pizza. You had 4 of the pieces, and there's only 4 left. There were 8 total. You ate half. A way to express this in decimal points is 0.5. And so there is half a pizza, 0.5. You ate half the pizza. So the 0.5 means you had half of it. This is kind of like, and again, we could also draw this as 0.50. That's also means the same thing. It means you had half the pizza. A lot of times we don't put this last zeros on or any of the last zeros on because just we're trying to be simple in writing. And so when we look at these numbers over here, when we have 2.5, we usually don't add on the extra zeros. That just is a lot of extra work. But if you just remove those zeros, notice they all say 2.5. So you can remove the zeros after the decimal point if they're just all piled on. Now you cannot do it if it's 2.501 because they're not all zeros anymore. So you can't just start removing zeros anywhere. Just if they're hanging on the back end, you can start removing them, and it means the same thing. You can put them there or you can remove them. So continuing with that thought, and hang with me here, if you have $1, we know it's a lot of times it's written like this. It's $1. What is 50 cents written like? 50 cents is half of $1, and we usually write it like that. Notice we call that half of $1, just like we ate half the pizza, but we a lot of times write half $1 as 0.50 or 50 cents because we're dealing with, in coins, we're dealing with 2 decimal points typically. Notice we go out to 2 decimal points. And so we write it that way, but half $1 can also be written like that. It means the same thing. But we typically, in dollars, we don't write them that way. Well, what's $0.25? Or we write that as 25 or 25 cents. That's why we call it a quarter, is because it's a quarter of $1. It takes 4 of those to make $1. We can also write 3/4 of $1 or 0.75 or 75 cents. These are all decimals of the whole number. Or more clearly said, they're part of a whole. Notice 75 cents is not quite $1. It's part of $1. It's actually 3/4 of $1 or 75 cents. Or 0.75. 0.25 is part of $1. It's not quite $1, but it's part of $1. So let's do a couple things here. Let's first see if we can organize the decimal pointed numbers in order from, let's say, lowest to highest. So I'm going to give you a list of numbers, and we're going to talk about how we organize them in order, in terms of who's the lowest and who's the highest. So here we have 4 numbers I've written down, and they're not in any particular order, and what we're going to do is order them from lowest to highest. So the first thing you do to organize it is you take all the numbers, you take all the numbers to the left of the decimal point. So here's our we've lined up our numbers, so that's what I would first do, is line up your numbers. And everything to the left of that dotted line I just drew are the numbers, are the whole numbers. And you can see right there that 5 is bigger than 4. So this number is going to be the biggest number because all the other numbers have 4s in them, and 4 is less than 5. So the 5 number is going to be our biggest number. Okay? And so if we can just put the biggest number here, I'm going to put that, this is me the bottom of my list right here. So I'll put 5.5 down there. And we've already evaluated that one. And so that's the first step, is don't worry about the decimal, everything after the decimal point or to the right of the decimal point when you're trying to organize these from left to right. Just look at the ones to the left and you can just organize them as standard numbers are. Now if we look to the right of the dotted line or the decimal points, because now this one starts with a 4, this one starts with a 4, and this one starts with a 4. So right now, just looking to the left of the dotted line or to the left of the decimal point, well, they all start with 4, so I can't distinguish which one's bigger or lower. So now let's go to the right of the dotted line, and I see this first number has a 1, that has a 3, and that has a 7. So the 1 is less than 3 and 7, so that's going to be my smallest number. And so we'll write that as 4.1 is my lowest number, 4.3 is next, and 4.7 is the next number. And so now I've organized them from lowest number to highest number. So lowest number is on top, highest number is on the bottom. So here's a list of 5 numbers. Go ahead and pause the video, organize them in order from lowest to highest, and then I'll come back and then restart the video, and then I will discuss the answer. Okay, so for this one again, I look at really all the numbers to the left of the decimal point first and organize them in that way. And so I'm going to just box the numbers I'm staring at. So these are the numbers to the left. And I see that I have 2 3s down here at the bottom. I have 2 11s and a 7. So I know that the 3s are going to be the lower numbers because of those numbers, 3s are the lowest. So I know my lowest numbers will start with 3s. I'll then have a 7 in there, and then I'll have 2 11s. And so that's going to be my organ. I know it's going to be in that order. Okay, but I don't know which 3 is first and which 11 is last, but I know the 7's in the middle. Okay, so I can, since I know 7's in the middle, I can just kind of remove that number, but for now. Now let's look at the numbers to the right of the decimal point and just compare like numbers. So let's start with the 3's. I have 2 3's down here at the bottom. One has a 2 and one has a 5. 2 is less than 5. So I know the 3.2 is first, the 3.5 is second. Then I know I only had one 7 number, so that's going to be the 7.0. And then I have 2 11s. I have a 4 and a 1 next to the 11s. And so I know a 1 is less than 4, so 11.1 will be there, and 11.4 will be there. And so now I've organized my numbers from lowest to highest. Now, doing this when you start to adjust the number of digits after the decimal point, for instance, when I'm talking about number of digits, like here we have 1 digit to the right of the decimal point. On the next number we have 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. On the next number we have 3 digits to the right. On the next number we have 1 digit to the right of the decimal point. Notice in the previous examples we always had the same number of digits to the right of the decimal point. So in this case, it's the same idea, except we have to do one modification. So to do this, at least early on, what is probably best to do is put zeros in so that they all have the same number of digits after the decimal point. So because my third one has 3 digits to the left of the decimal point, I'm going to make sure we have 3 digits in every single number. And so let's take the first one. I'm going to add in 2 zeros, because remember we talked about before, adding zeros doesn't change the number. It keeps the number the same. It's 2.5 is the same as 2.50. Those are the same numbers. We usually don't show the zeros because it just is difficult, or it takes time consuming to do so. It's cumbersome. The next one has 2 digits, so I'm going to add a 3rd digit on there. The third number already has 3 digits, so I'll just leave it alone. And the 4th digit has 1 digit, so I'll add 2 more. Now they all have the same number of digits to the right of the decimal point. It doesn't matter to the left so much, it just matters to the right of the decimal point. So now we go ahead and organize them in order from lowest to highest. So let's do that just as we've done before. And so we'll do that, and we'll do it in the same way that we did before. Now the game is the same. So we first look at the numbers to the right of the decimal point, and you see they all start with 2. So at this point we can't really distinguish one from the other by looking to the left of the decimal point, because they all have the same number. So in this case, no help here. So at this point I know I have 4 numbers I'm going to be organizing. They all start with 2. So I'll just put those numbers down. So I've got the numbers to the left. So it's the numbers to the digits to the right that are going to distinguish one from the other, who's bigger and who's smaller. So let's look at those numbers. When you look at these numbers now, they're big numbers because we added all those zeros on there, but don't worry about it. You still do the same thing. So I have the number 400. I have 480, I have 310, and I have 700. Looking at those numbers now, you can tell which one's the smallest and which one's the biggest. 310 is the smallest, so that will be 310. The next biggest number is 400, so I put that number in, and then I have the next number is, looks like 480 would be the next biggest number, and the next biggest number is 700. And so there now I've organized them from lowest to highest in the same way. Let's go ahead and try that once on your own. So I'll give you some numbers and you can organize them from lowest to highest. So here's a list of 5 numbers. Go ahead and pause the video, organize them in the correct order from lowest to highest, and then restart the video and I'll go through the answer. Okay, so to go through this one, I am going to, first of all, determine, I want to get all the decimal point digits correct. Or it's not correct necessarily, but it's just for ease, I want to make sure they all have the same number of digits. The first one has 2 digits to the left of or to the right of the decimal point. This one has 1, this one has 1, this one has 3, and this one has 2. So to organize these in order from lowest to highest, I'm going to first put zeros on, and I need 3 digits total because the one with the most down here at the bottom has 3 digits. So we want to match that. And so for the first one, I just need to add in 1 0. For the next one, I need to add in 2 zeros. I need to add in 2 zeros there and 1 0 there. Now they all have the same number of digits to the right of the decimal point. Okay, so now I go ahead, since they all have the same number of digits to the right of the decimal point, now I just need to go ahead and do my organization like I've done before. I first start with the numbers to the left of the decimal point and organize them from lowest to highest. It looks like I have 1 6 and then I have 4 7s. So I'll just go ahead and write in 4 7s because I know it's going to be in that order. The 6 is lower than all the 7s, so I'll just do that. Now I can look at the numbers to the right of the decimal point and organize them. Now, since I only had one that started with 6, I know that one's going to go right here. So that's going to be that number for sure. So that one's done. I've completed that one. The rest of them, these 4, I have to organize based on the numbers on the right. So it looks like I have, whoops, let me get rid of this. It looks like I have a 420 in right here, an 800, 411, and an 880. So 411 is the lowest of those 4, so that'll be that number. Whoops, I don't know why I put a decimal point there. There, 411. So that one's done. 420 is the next, or 420 is the next lowest number. So I put that guy there. The next lowest number is this one. So that's done. And then the next lowest, or the last one, is that one. And now I've organized them lowest to highest. Obviously a number like 6.900 is more than 6 but less than 7, where all these numbers down here are all more than 7, less than 8. So I know that these are in the right order. And then these 4 down here, notice it goes from 7.411, 7.420, 7.800, and 7.888, going from lowest to highest. So we've organized them from lowest to highest.